Good, y'all. It's your boy P.O. back with another one, man. Today, as you can see, we are watching The Moment She Realized Detectives Knew Everything. Let's get into it.
We'll be diving into a case that shook the city of Cleveland to its core. What makes this case extraordinary is the complex investigation that took place following the murder. But to fully understand exactly how this killer was caught, we have to start from the very beginning. On November 3rd, 2013, at exactly 8:35 p.m., the Cleveland Police Department received a chilling 911 call.
911, you need police fire. I can't hear you. What's going on? She got shot, please. Who got shot? My husband, please.
The voice you have been listening to belongs to a 41-year-old woman by the name of Yuloma Curry Walker. Yuloma just discovered her husband clinging to life on the driveway of their Cleveland home.
Who shot your husband?
She might, let me not even, but just by the way she calling, you know how it be with these type videos.
Okay, the police are coming, ma'am. Please help me. Please help me. Ma'am, police are coming and EMS is coming, okay? They're en route.
Okay, stay right here. Don't move. Don't move, baby. Don't move. Please don't move.
First responders were
I don't like how she just completely
dispatched, and within minutes, officers arrived at the Walker residence on Lampson
Changed her
Road.
whole
As they approached
attitude.
Yuloma on her driveway, authorities realized that they knew this couple. The victim was actually fellow first responder and lieutenant of the fire department, 45-year-old William Walker. Will was covered in blood. He was still breathing, but his condition was critical due to 3 gunshot wounds to the chest. As they were tending to Will, he mentioned something about a man in the backyard, but was unable to coherently complete his sentence. One of the officers quickly checked the backyard, but it was clear of any threats. Detective Thomas Lynch arrived to help with the investigation. He noticed something odd. Will's keys were found still in the side door. If this was a robbery, why didn't the assailant break into Will's home or vehicle using those keys? Aside from the 3 bullets that hit Will, there were several bullets that had struck the side of the house. They also found 4 9mm shell casings scattered around the crime scene. While the investigators collected the evidence, Will was loaded into the ambulance and transported to Metro Health's emergency center. Yuloma was riding shotgun. Once they arrived, the officers took note of Yuloma's appearance. Strangely, she had no blood on her. This lack of blood made it clear that Yuloma failed to provide any first aid assistance to her dying husband, despite being a nurse herself. The officers attempted to
we got going on here? Nurse, man in the back, dead husband. You reading me? You reading me? Is your head where my head's at?
To speak with her, but they were interrupted by bad news. Will's injuries proved to be fatal, and on November 3rd, 2013, at 11:42 p.m., just 3 hours after the 911 call was placed, Lieutenant William Walker was pronounced dead.
45-year-old William Walker was a 15-year veteran with the department. Walker was shot several times in the driveway of his Cleveland home last night.
Walker's neighbor tells us she heard 5 shots.
And here is what else we have learned. Sources
5 shots. But he got hit with 3.
Connected to the investigation say Walker had a laceration wound in addition to multiple gunshot wounds in his chest. He died at Metro Health Medical Center. Walker's colleagues say he leaves behind a wife and 2 children.
Following Will's death, the police brought Yuloma into the station for further questioning.
So the reason we asked you to come down is because we never really got a chance to talk with you about, your Will's lived together.
Yuloma and Will met back in 2005. They instantly felt a connection. They were both single parents.
Peep the rice cooker though.
Each having 2 children from previous marriages. And they both had similar social circles due to their professions, Yuloma as a nurse and Will as a firefighter.
Right.
In early 2013, Yuloma was diagnosed with breast cancer. This pushed the couple to finally get married, partially so Yuloma would be covered under Will's insurance benefits.
William was just a great person.
Damn.
Unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to move my camera.
I'm not going to say he was perfect, but he was my perfect. I just want to find out what happened.
I know this isn't easy. How about, can we just go through what happened?
On the night of the shooting, the two were packing their belongings for their upcoming move to a new home in Madison, Ohio. Just before 8:30 p.m., Uloma asked Will to get some dinner from a nearby McDonald's. Upon his return, Uloma heard shots fired and Will screaming outside. After running outside and finding Will on the ground, she noticed a suspicious stranger while she was dialing 911.
It was one guy. I don't remember what he looked like. And I asked him, what did he want? I remember that's the only person I remember.
Was he close to you? Did he approach you?
He came in the driveway.
Officers instantly had an idea of who this mysterious person may be. Will and Uloma's neighbor was a 27-year-old man named Rex Coleman. Rex had an extensive criminal record and had multiple armed robberies under his belt. He also owned an auto dealership that Will was in the process of purchasing 2 vehicles from. However, after paying $10,000 for one of them, the vehicle never arrived. The detectives asked Uloma if this conflict ever led to a confrontation between Rex and Will. She said no. However, there was a heated altercation between Will and some of Rex's acquaintances.
There was no physical altercation or anything, just yelling and screaming.
We were yelling and screaming.
She couldn't remember what this altercation was about, but from that point on, Will always carried a gun whenever he left his home.
Something had happened and William had gotten his gun from underneath the bed. He took Pepe outside.
To the dog.
Following this interview, they hunted Rex down and brought him to the station for questioning. He denied any involvement in Will's shooting and provided an alibi, a pizza date with his girlfriend. Police were able to confirm this alibi, and nothing suspicious was found while looking through Rex's phone. Therefore, Rex Coleman was ruled out as a suspect. This lead didn't pan out, but it wasn't long before detectives had another name on their radar. After setting up an anonymous tip line, the police received multiple tips telling them to look into somebody named Chad. However, they provided no last name, no address, nothing, just the name Chad. The investigators reached out to Uloma and asked her if she knew anybody by that name. She said that her daughter Jackie actually had a boyfriend named Chad, and that the two were at Chad's mom's house on the night of the shooting. When speaking with Jackie, the detectives found it odd that she also wouldn't provide Chad's last name, but they were easily able to track this information down. His name was Chad Paget. The detectives spoke to all 3 of them, Uloma, Jackie, and Chad, about Chad's relationship with Will. They all said essentially the same thing, that Chad and Will got along just fine. However, when asking Will's co-workers about this relationship with Chad, they all said the opposite, that Will thought Chad was a lazy punk that's not good enough for Jackie. These contradictory statements puzzled the detectives.
So
why
Jackie
were
is his
Uloma
daughter.
and Jackie
I
found?
didn't hear that part. Jackie is his daughter. Hold on, let me move my camera down here, because they keep putting stuff where I'm at.
For Chad if he was clearly on Will's bad side. Everything so far was pointing to Chad being involved, but since he and Jackie corroborated each other's alibis, authorities let him go. Soon after interviewing Chad, results came back from the crime lab, and it turns out that there was a latent fingerprint on one of the shell casings. However, this fingerprint didn't match anything in the criminal database, and even if it belonged to Chad, there was no way to know since Chad refused to provide his DNA and fingerprints. Therefore, Chad was placed on the back burner while the investigation continued. In the days following Chad's interview, a vigil was held for Will.
Hundreds packed Lamson Avenue for a candlelight vigil for Cleveland firefighter Lieutenant William Walker.
Heavenly Father, we just ask that you watch over his family in this particular time of need.
He was a great firefighter, great paramedic. He represented us well. And I could tell you this, that I'm a better man for having known Will Walker.
I'm really emotional right now, but I just want to thank everyone for coming out to support my brother. He would gladly, and I know he's gladly appreciating this right now. Thank you. I love you, Will.
I put my life on the line for the fire department. I've never done the things that he's done for this community.
And somebody know what happened. And they're listening right now. So you will be caught.
Not long after, there was also a memorial held by Will's fellow firefighters to honor his memory before he was laid to rest.
Not a single person had a bad word to say about Lieutenant William Walker. Just about an hour ago, he was let out by a procession of firefighters with his casket as they came out of public order.
And we're going to be live at 6, 7, something like that. So join up. come chill, watch some videos with me. Like the video right now, too.
Auditorium. They
Show
took the
some
casket
love.
into a fire truck where the lights and sirens were going, and they took him off.
He was a great family man. Real silly. That's what I'm gonna miss about him. He used to make me laugh a lot. We had the same sense of humor.
Over the next year, the case slowly went stagnant. Several more leads were looked into, but each of them only led to a dead end. Uncertain of what move to make next, they brought Uloma back in for another interview as a last-ditch effort for new information.
Was there anything going on at the time? Was there anything that we should be, focusing on?
I just want to find out what happened.
Okay, well, that's what we're trying to do. Hey, was there anything going on with finances?
I didn't have a problem.
How's your health been? Your health all right?
I don't know, I've been to the doctor. That's the problem.
The detectives found it very strange that someone diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer hadn't gone into the doctor recently. After this interview, they looked into Uloma's medical records. They determined that she hadn't been to a doctor in over a year. In fact, it turns out that there was zero history of her undergoing chemo or any cancer treatment at all. Authorities quickly realized that her late-stage breast cancer diagnosis was a complete lie. This led investigators to dig deeper into Uloma's records, including her financial records. And it turns out that she had amassed a significant amount of debt using a plethora of credit cards. For a moment, the investigators thought that they were onto something big. Perhaps Uloma had faked her diagnosis so that Will would marry her. And once married, she killed Will to collect his life insurance payout, thus solving her crippling financial situation. But they quickly learned that the beneficiary for Will's life insurance wasn't even Uloma, but rather his ex-wife Rita. Uloma didn't receive a dime. Did Uloma think that she would receive that money? Otherwise, why would she kill Will if it wasn't for money? Was Uloma really involved in Will's death after all? Investigators needed more information if they ever wanted to answer these questions. So in December of 2014, the Cuyahoga Police Department and the Cleveland Fire Department offered a $10,000 cash reward in exchange for any information about Will's murder that leads to an arrest.
We sincerely hope that someone will step forward and provide some information to solve these senseless crimes.
After notifying the public about the cash reward, a new tip came in from someone named Isaiah. Apparently, Isaiah had been approached by none other than Chad Padgett, who asked if he would carry out a hit in exchange for money. Isaiah denied this offer. With this new information, police now had probable cause for a search warrant of Chad's phone records. They noticed that around the time of the shooting, Chad was constantly communicating with Jackie and another unknown number. Police were able to trace this phone number back to a man named Ryan Doherty. Ryan Doherty was notorious in Lieutenant Walker's neighborhood for his colorful history of robberies and burglaries. In fact, at this point in the investigation, Ryan was serving a 17-year prison sentence for robbing a Family Dollar store and shooting a cashier in the stomach. Less than 3 weeks.
Hey, man. At least the cashier didn't die. But, bro, what is you doing robbing a Family Dollar? You stupid.
Weeks after Will was killed, officers wanted to build as strong of a case as possible before moving in on any suspects, so they obtained search warrants for Jackie, Ryan, and Uloma's phone records as well. They then worked with the FBI to create a clear map showing the exact location of these cell phones.
I bet you none of them knew what was going on while they was doing all this too, bro.
Throughout the night of the shooting, and the exact times that they were communicating with each other. It revealed that right before the time of the shooting, Chad and Ryan had made their way from the west side of Cleveland, where Chad's mom's residence is, to the east side of Cleveland, directly toward the Walker residence. And at 8:30 p.m., Chad sent a text to a group chat that included him, Jackie, and Uloma. The text read, "We got a body." The evidence was beginning to paint a very clear picture of how this crime was executed, so Chad was detained and brought down to the station for questioning. The first thing they do is confront Chad with the cell phone location data. His story immediately changed. Now he says that one of his friends, a person whose identity we will not be sharing, drove him to the Walker residence where Chad had stashed some marijuana. Ryan Doherty tagged along to buy some of this stash from Chad.
Where were you when you left? Were you at your house? Your mom's house? So you leave from over there in Denison. You get over to the east side. Tell me what happened.
After picking up the goods, Chad and Ryan went outside to make the exchange.
Went up on the porch, got my stuff. Showed Ryan what it was.
As they walked back to the car, Will pulled into his driveway, parking just out of Chad's view. When Ryan saw this, he suddenly started walking towards the driveway. He came back moments later as if nothing happened.
What did Ryan say when he ran up? He didn't say nothing. That's the thing. Ryan didn't say nothing at all. Nothing. It was just when I walked down the street, he told me, he's like, bro, I got you. You didn't say nothing. I'm like, no, I truly did not know.
You didn't hear any gunshots?
No. And I know the sounds of gunshots.
Chad says that he only found out about Lieutenant Walker's murder later that night.
On the porch, I seen Jackie sitting there crying and everything, and she told me, like, look, guess Will's dead. I'm like, what you mean? That's when 2 and 2 got in my head. I tell you, too.
While telling this story, Chad didn't realize that the detectives knew about the "We Got a Body" text. They gave him one last chance to fess up.
This could be an opportunity for you to determine kind of like your fate from here on out.
I don't have nothing to do with this, though. Okay.
Since Chad continued to be untruthful, the detectives decided that they had had enough.
Bag murder. Give me books. Right.
You didn't do nothing, though, like, for real. Okay. I really did not do nothing.
It's over with. Oh my gosh, they really know.
You probably didn't go quite how you anticipated, right?
Never even did nothing.
Following this interview, Chad Padgett was charged for the murder of Lieutenant William Walker. His DNA samples and fingerprints were finally collected. The fingerprints were then compared to the ones found on the shell case at the crime scene. It was a match, suggesting that Chad was the one who loaded the gun. After being thrown in jail for a few days, Chad's mother contacted the detectives, saying that Chad wanted to speak with them again. He was ready to tell the full truth.
Wherever you feel comfortable, sir.
I don't know, I'm trying to think. It's hard. I've been with that girl for 6 years. I stopped on and off. Right, we've been cool. I met her mom a bunch of times. She seemed pretty cool.
Apparently, Uloma, Chad, and Jackie were all in the car together when Uloma first mentioned the idea of killing Will.
One day,
Uloma mentioned the story.
dropped off at work,
The wife wanted to do it.
picked her up. She asked me a question. She asked me, did I want to make like $10,000? I said, I did.
Was it like
She
10,000 or
asked
was
me
it
to-
10,000?
I don't know how to put it.
How'd she ask me?
She asked me to kill Will.
Uloma told them that Will had been physically abusing her and that the only way out of this abusive relationship was to get rid of him.
The man, I was on $10,000 to do this. Money was running through my head.
Uloma told them that Will had a $100,000 life insurance policy and that they would get paid once the job is done.
I said, I can't do it, but I might know somebody. She said, okay, that's cool.
Uloma then gave Chad a $1,000 deposit to search for a person to complete the job. Chad had initially presented the offer to his friend Isaiah, but after he rejected the proposal, he turned to his cousin, 22-year-old Christopher
The crazy part is he has a son, bro. What's up with you?
Hine, who was known to be an arms dealer on the streets. Chris then put Chad in contact with Ryan Doherty, who he enlisted to carry out the killing.
Okay, so I was like, would you be able to do something for some money? He was like, what's up? I asked him, is he able to kill Will for some money? He said yes.
Wow.
If you didn't get $10,000.
He,
I probably want to say altogether about 2,500.
And of that $2,500 to Ryan check.
500, and I still owe my 100. He was on my back about it.
Chad's interview was wrapped.
he killed him for $600, bro.
And of that $2,500 to Ryan check.
500, and I still owe.
500 and I still owe him 100, which means this guy was about to get $10,000 for killing someone, and he was gonna pay somebody 600 for doing it for him. What in the world? And he was gonna do it for 600.
Owe my 100. He was on my back about it.
Chad's interview was wrapped up, and Chris and Ryan were immediately tracked down and brought into the station by police. Chris was very forthcoming, telling the detectives the same story that Chad did and then some. According to Chris, he was originally set to execute the plan in October of 2013, just a month before Will's death. He even went to Will's home on Lamson Road, but lost his nerve and couldn't fire the weapon. That's when he reached out to Ryan to carry out the hit, offering him a mere $800 and an assortment of paraphernalia. Ryan was much less cooperative during his interview.
So basically, Chris was supposed to do it even. But Chris is not that guy. And so Chris got Ryan, and Ryan was probably sloppy with it. Or, I mean, I guess not, because he got away with it for about a year. For his little $800 and some drugs, he killed somebody.
The detectives began questioning him, but without hesitation, he denied all of the allegations. The interview ended there as Ryan would not provide any further information. Considering the "we got a body" text in the group chat, it seemed that Jackie was also closely involved in her stepfather's death. The detectives were now ready to speak with her again. Jackie initially claimed that she had no knowledge of the murder plot. However, detectives confronted her with all of the evidence, which prompted her to hop on the confession bandwagon. She opened up and confirmed what Chad and Chris had said, that Yuloma claimed she was being abused and was the leader of the operation. Chad was the middleman, Chris was the arms dealer, and Ryan was the shooter. As for the driver, Chad, Chris, and Jackie
It's so
all...
crazy how they actually found all this out, though. Like, it took a year and some change, but wow. Like, they thought they got away with it, bro.
Said that he was not told the real purpose of the trip and truly believed that they were just going to fetch some marijuana. When Chad and Ryan re-entered the car, they told him to hurry up since they had just robbed someone. Furious, he ordered both men out of his car. They complied and their friend drove off. The two then took the train home. Back to the west
car was that?
was the shooter. As for the driver, Chad, Chris, and Jackie all said that he was not told the real purpose of the trip and truly believed that they were just going to fetch some marijuana. When Chad and Ryan re-entered the car, they told him to hurry up since they had just robbed someone. Furious, he ordered both men out of his car. They complied and their friend drove off. The two then took the train home, back to the west side of Cleveland to meet up with Jackie and Chris. Jackie also told the detective...
Cleveland. They bugging. They bugging, bro. These Cleveland boys bugging. Like, he really killed him for $800 and some drugs. Are we serious?
That after everything was all said and done, Yuloma never actually paid anybody the full amount that they were promised. Jackie was then also taken into custody, so there was only one person left, Yuloma. However, there was one problem. Authorities were struggling to find Yuloma. Any attempts to reach out to her were met with no response. In an attempt to hunt her down, police reached out to Yuloma's inner circle, and apparently a close friend of hers had reason to believe that Yuloma had fled the state. She said that several months after the shooting, Yuloma had asked her to help store some of her family's belongings. The friend agreed and rented a storage unit for about $800. However, after storing the belongings, Yuloma went on a road trip to North Carolina. She never reimbursed the friend and had not been seen since. Police later...
Bro, she just promising people money and not paying.
Found out that one of the belongings Yuloma left behind was actually Will's car. The most shocking part was that his remains were found in the back seat. After collaborating with North Carolina state law enforcement, in just 3 days, Yuloma was located and transported back to Cleveland, Ohio. As soon as she arrived, she was re-interviewed by Cleveland police, and this time, there was no holding back.
Hey, Yuloma. Remember Sandoval?
Yeah, you remember.
It's been a while. Obviously, you're aware there's been some developments along the way. You are a person that we consider involved in the murder of William Walker. It is considered an aggravated murder case because it was planned. At this time, do you care to make any statements about our investigation into the murder of William Walker?
Not with an attorney.
Okay.
With Yuloma being uncooperative, she was swiftly arrested. Her and her 4 co-conspirators were all charged with aggravated murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and 2 counts of felonious assault. During their arraignments, each person pled not guilty and was assigned a $1 million bond.
You wish to enter a not guilty plea. Not guilty plea is accepted. Bond is set $1 million.
However, leading up to Yuloma's trial, her alleged accomplices would all eventually turn against her. Chad, Chris, Ryan, and Jackie all agreed to testify against Uloma for a lesser sentence as part of a plea deal. Uloma's trial officially began in June of 2017. The prosecution's plan was to show that this murder was all about money. They suggested that although Ryan Doherty had ultimately pulled the trigger, Uloma's surmounting money problems is what led her to orchestrate Will's murder. Uloma's defense team would go on to deny the allegations against her. They suggested that Uloma was a victim of Will's domestic abuse and that Jackie, in an attempt to protect her mother, had actually cooked up the murder plan. They also argued that the 4 testimonies of those involved in the murder lacked credibility and that they were only pinning this crime on Uloma to lessen their own sentences. On July 7th, 2017, after a 10-day trial, the jury had come to a decision and the verdict was presented to the court. Uloma Curry Walker was found guilty of aggravated murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and both counts of felonious assault. Her sentencing took place about a month later, on August 8, 2017, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Chad Padgett's aggravated murder charge was dropped to involuntary manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 28 years in prison. On top of his 17-year sentence from his previous convictions, Ryan Doherty was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 23 years. Christopher Hines was sentenced to 18 years in prison. And since Jackie was still a minor at the time of the crime, she was sentenced in juvenile court and spent 1 month locked up at a juvenile detention center before being released.
Lucky. Everybody got a lot of years.
Loved ones of Cleveland Fire Lieutenant William Walker want the world to know how great of a man he was.
Dad was such a great dad. He was, a role model, a friend to us. He,
Is this the daughter?
Did so much
This
for
better
me and
not be
Chris.
Jackie.
He worked, 4 jobs just so that we could be able to travel. So this is very devastating to us.
He motivated me to do better, to always push harder in life, and no matter what, just keep moving forward.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, man? What's y'all's thoughts, bro? This is crazy. Crazy, boy. You know what y'all think, man? Like the video up, though. For boy, pre on, I'm going. Finna eat a rice.